All right, welcome back. We're joined again by the parish president of Lafourche, Archie Chaisson. Archie, before we lost transmission, we got you back. You were telling me about the trucks, the line trucks in Lafourche Parish. I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah, we probably have about 600 trucks in the parish right now, Martin, between energy and their contractors. And I'm standing outside of our emergency operations center. I walked outside on the phone to hopefully get a better signal to you guys. And I'm watching them. They're right behind our building trying to stand up our power line. So hopefully, we're hoping that the recent grid comes back online either late tonight or very early tomorrow morning. So when that happens, we'll be able to power up St. Anne and our emergency operations center. So those guys are working really hard to get our power back up here as well.
Yeah, you had a chance. I know, like you said, you had Senator Cassidy and John Kennedy. You've had the Congress people all coming through. And what's the number one thing you're urging them to do? Because I was talking to Gordy earlier. He said that some of the parishes still have not received their checks all the way back to Hurricane Katrina. So is that a concern for you, that you got to sort of watch the coffers because you don't want to expend it thinking you're going to get reimbursed real quick?
That's exactly right. So we have two main concerns right now. And first, I'll say it's sheltering. You know, we've got to find a way to put people who have lost their homes and people who are being evicted from some of these apartment complexes who sustained damage. We have to find them some long-term sheltering, whether that FEMA trailers being brought in, whether that, we've talked about some marine units, marine living quarters being floated in to put people on, to have them someplace to live. Martin, I have one employee in particular who lost his home, who's living out of one of our bridge houses right now at night. That's where he goes to sleep. So I know that's happening throughout the parish with people who are sleeping in their cars. So our number one focus the last 2 days has been sheltering. We talked to Senator Kennedy yesterday about that. We talked to Senator Cassidy about that. And yesterday when Cedric Richmond called from the White House to check in, that was my number one concern to him. And secondly is funding, right? We met with some representatives from GoStep late last week. And you're right, we're still working on reimbursements from Katrina, Rita, Gustav, Ike, and even Isaac. So, we're pushing FEMA really hard to do some type of advance payments as we put in the information that we're paying for fuel or machinery that we had to get in here to clear roads and streets, whether it's emergency food to feed people as they're here in our EOC and in the field that are working. We're working really hard with them to do some type of advances where we can put this information in and we're getting reimbursed in a fairly timely fashion. I got the estimate on Monday from our debris contractor. We're looking at about $18 million worth of debris on the ground. So from a cash flow standpoint, paying these guys once a month to pick this stuff up at some point could get very difficult as we get into, the next several months as debris comes off the ground. So working with GoStep, working with FEMA on those cash flow issues is secondary for us as well. And I try not to really harp on that because I know that, our community is facing a much worse cash flow operation than we are here in government. So again, trying to take care of our people is our first priority.
But I would think too, you make a good point about the trash, because the trash is by the bayous, is by the ditches, and as this stuff starts to rot and decay, and some of it may be chemical related, you don't want something else knocking it back into the water system.
That's right. And we actually have crews following our debris contractors. So as they're cleaning streets, we're going behind them with our machines, with contractors that we brought in to sweep those ditches, because we don't want there to be drainage problems and cause a significant flooding issue because we didn't get the storm drain debris cleaned as the big tree debris and stuff was being picked up. So those are all things that we're thinking through and all things that we're working on to help protect our community from just a regular rain after a post-storm, knowing that we have all this stuff on the ground.
Let me ask you this, as far as the leader of Lafourche Parish, and I know you're working with all the police, and I'm sure Chief Zarang has a big task also. Are you getting a lot of looting in your area? We know in Terrebonne they had a few, but it sort of went down quickly after the judges put $1 million bonds on them. What's the situation in Lafourche?
I think I haven't really gotten an update from the chiefs. I mean, I talk to the sheriff every night. We kind of do a little briefing in the morning and one in the afternoon as we run into each other here in the EOC. We've only had a handful of looting complaints. I don't think there's been any arrests made, mainly because I think they're deterring it. We have a ton of not only sheriff's office personnel, but outside law enforcement that have come in. We even received a military police company on Monday that's been assigned to the sheriff's office and is helping energy with escorts and things like that. So we have a huge police presence in Lafourche Parish. So the looting complaints have been, as far as I know at this point, very minimal.
Well, good. That's good to hear. What are some of you talked about housing and sheltering and things of that nature? I know that diesel and fuel, and I don't want to say it's been problematic, because I think under the circumstances, probably companies have been miraculous in how they've been able to provide us. But what's your assessment of that, and are the supplies good in Lafourche Parish?
Yeah, the first couple of days were rough, Martin, as we tried to get fuel in for pump stations and machinery to clear stuff. Mainly because all of the companies, their employees had evacuated. They had damage to their facilities, so they had to get back up and running before they could get us back up and running. But we've seen over the last couple of days lines at gas stations decrease as more of them come online. We started, I think yesterday, through our social media pages, putting a list of things that were open, businesses that were back open, including gas stations and service stations. Because look, let's face it, gas is an issue, but as people try to get back on the roads and clean up, people are putting nails in their tires and screws in their tires. So having repair shops that people know open as well, so they can get plugs in their tires from roofing nails or anything else that we're running over. I picked up a screw on Monday and ended up at the sheriff's office motor pool so they could fix my tire. So we know things like that are going to happen. But overall, the gas situation is improving. Chevron and Shell have really stepped up and sent tanker trucks, especially to South Lafourche, which was the biggest lines we saw as far as fuel in the beginning, because they only had one, maybe two gas stations open. They've stepped up and brought in 8,000 plus gallons of fuel at a time with fueling stations, so we could ration gas to people. If you were in line at a pod site or you needed gas for a generator, we could provide 10, 20 gallons of gas to you at a time to help get you back to wherever you were going, or keep your generators running to keep you going at home. So fuel gets better every day as the refineries come back online, as logistics issues come back into play. Things are overall very well ahead of where I thought I'd be 10 days post-storm.
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of work that's been done, and it comes from leadership, and we appreciate that. Let me ask you, we got about a minute 50 left. Water pressure okay in Lafourche, or which spots are out still?
Yeah, so we have water pressure everywhere in Lafourche Parish. Again, they did identify a leak in the Chag Bay community today that they're working on fixing. So there's a little part of Chag Bay, I think, that's isolated off the grid. We did have on Monday night a generator issue at the South Water Plant that caused pressure to dip and some people to not have water for a few hours. That generator issue has been solved, and they're back on full generator power. But until we can, and again, hopefully they get permanent power back in the next day or so, that's going to relieve a whole lot of stress, because at that point they don't have to worry about generators failing or anything like that. So the system is still very touch and go, but we have all the way down through Golden Meadow to the floodgates. Everybody has some semblance of water pressure where they can use their bathrooms and take showers and things like that. So we're doing better with that every day as well.
All right, Mr. Parish President, we thank you for joining us on a daily basis. We know we'll see you tomorrow at your press conference. I'm sure you'll have a lot of information as we'll be there. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Martin. Always a pleasure.
All right, there you have it. Archie Chaisson, the Parish President of Lafourche Parish, doing a knockout job of communicating. And thanks to all the public officials who are getting us information so we could give it to you. That's important, and they're doing a knockout job, and it's really increased, and we appreciate that. We'll take a short break. We're awaiting Superintendent of Terrebonne Parish Schools, Philip Martin. He's going to have the state superintendent with him and the Bessie Board president. We'll be back.